Well, hello, hello. I am so very excited. Before I get started, I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. So I'm going to make sure that I follow instructions from my team because this information is so important. I don't want anyone to miss anything. We had just a couple of technical difficulties, and I am told, yes, you can hear me. So I am excited. And now I'm going to make sure you can see my screen. Let's make sure you can see my screen. And we are going to get that going right now. So I want to make sure you can see my screen. I am so excited. And I'm also being told I look great. So thank you. And if you can just let me know if you can see my screen, that would be awesome. Okay. So my screen is definitely up. So I just want to make sure you can see my screen. My screen is up. Let me just try this again. Okay, my team is saying no screen. So let me try this again. Let me just go out and let me make sure I am here. Okay, so I'm doing the same thing every week. Sometimes we just never know why certain things don't happen. So I am showing my screen. Let me just see. And I just hit the share button. And from my side, it's saying that my screen is showing. So please let me know if you see my screen. And we apologize for the technical difficulty. Yes. Okay. Yes, you can see my screen. So here we go. I am so excited to share with you this week. We have so much to cover. Now, this is the week where you protect your wealth. This is the week where everything that we've done so far and what we do later is going to come to fruition so you can go to the entire next level. But of course, before we do that, I just want to do a very quick review. I want to remind you about what we've covered and what we still have left to go. So we are at the halfway mark, as I've shared. I'm so thankful to the Delta Research and Educational Foundation. I'm so thankful to Toyota, and I'm so thankful to each and every one of you who show up here every week. I hear some people even showed up early to get what it is that you need to get into the financial health and wellness space of your life. So we have dealt with spend less money, get more money, get your money back, make your money grow. And here we are this week at Protect Your Wealth. And let me tell you, next week, Own Where You Live is going to completely shut it down. Even if you already do own where you live, we have so many great things in store. So I just want to go over again the definition of wellness. And I want to keep my review very short here because I've got lots of information to cover, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have lots of questions. According to Pfizer, wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better physical and mental health outcomes so that instead of just surviving, you are thriving. And what we all know is money cannot buy happiness, but it sure can make life easier to live. It sure can make life give you more access to the things that you need. It's not about having money to buy a bigger house or a bigger car, but for most of us, we want to have enough resources so that we can give. We want to have enough resources so we can live. We want to have enough resources so we can take care of the next generation, our communities, our loved ones, the elderly, and so on. And so, this kind of wellness gives you a spirit of energy, a spirit of freedom, because without it, then there is anxiety and depression and feeling like you're stuck. And really, at the end of the day, what you need to do is exactly what I did. And that is realize that there is no shame at all in acknowledging where you are. The only thing that you have to do is commit to moving forward. And that is what wellness is all about. I'm going to go over very briefly. Stair step number one was to spend less money. We live by the 10-10-30-50. 10% you tithe, 10% you save, 30% for incidentals, 50% for bills. If you don't remember that, or if you need to go back and review that, then you can go to deltafoundation.net to go and review anything that you've missed. Number 2 was to get more money. Why? Because one stream of income is hazardous to your wealth. And we talked about 4 different kinds of income: employee, business, self-employment, and investment. All again, so you can make your money grow. Number 3, get your money back. Okay, what do I mean by that? If you go to the grocery store, you spend all the money, and you come home and eat your groceries. If the grocery store manager says, come back and get your money, but keep your groceries, you will go back. That's what the IRS says when you have a home-based business. So everybody should have at least one home-based business as one of your streams of income, because of the hundreds of tax deductions that you can get for things that you are spending money on anyway, like meals, driving your car, your rent, light bill, gas bill. When you travel, if you take a vacation, you don't get your money back. But if you travel for business, you do. And when you get done handling business, you can do all the vacationing things. So number 3 was to get your money back. Number 4 was to make your money grow. And it's important for you to understand that you can start anywhere. You can start anywhere. But if you have a home-based business, you are also eligible for not just the IRA, which everyone is eligible for, but also a 401k. And if you are self-employed, a solo 401k. So for all of those big income earners, for everybody who's out there, you said the IRS snatched $50,000 or $20,000 or $30,000. Guess what? If you would have taken that money and put it into a solo 401k, you've got that money growing on the side. And guess what? Now you can start to really, really build wealth and watch your money work for you. Now, oh my goodness, and we are so on track. I did my review in less than 10 minutes. So that's my goal. So today we're going to talk about protecting your wealth. Their step number 5 is to protect your wealth. And it's time for us to realize that we can build generational wealth. The power is in your hands. Now, I'm going to tell you a very, very true story. I'm going to tell you about a young woman who was in bankruptcy, had just filed bankruptcy, was in the middle of the recession of 2008. Her house was upside down. When she purchased the house, she purchased it for $400,000. And when the real estate market began to go upside down, her house was only worth $200,000. Let me repeat. When she purchased it for $400,000. The house was worth $500,000. But when the real estate market flipped upside down, the house was worth less than $200,000. She was in bankruptcy. She was on food stamps. She had nothing left. She had nothing left except her will to not quit, because you cannot fail until you quit. But let me tell you what she did have. She was in bankruptcy. Her house was upside down. She was driving an old used BMW that didn't have any air conditioning. It did not have electric windows. She had to actually take the window and roll it up and roll it down in 100-degree weather in the city of Chicago. She didn't have anything. But guess what she did have? She still had the ability to make sure that even if she never lived to achieve her dreams, even if she did not make it another day to grind, even if for some reason she did not wake up and did not have the ability to see her financial dreams come true, this young woman had life insurance, and she had enough of it to take care of her husband, her children, her parents, her grandparents, his parents, his grandparents, and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren for generations to come. That person is the person that you're listening to now, Lynn Richardson. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. And let me tell you one thing about being on the financial grind. Let me tell you one thing about trying to get to the next level. Some days it's going to feel like you're never going to get there. Some days it's going to feel like your business is never going to take off. Some days it's going to feel like you are always going to be living check to Monday or check to 2 o'clock. You're trying to get this budget straight. You're trying to grow your wealth. You're trying to get your money back. Some days you are going to feel like giving up. But let me tell you, what you will have if you follow these instructions. You will always be able to say, I may not have done it while I was here, but one thing I'm going to do is be who I am. They say you're going to be who you are, and one day you're going to pass on. If and when that happens, if it happens sooner than expected, because listen, people do not die in chronological order. I want you to understand that. People do not pass in chronological order. Unfortunately, sometimes people go sooner than expected, unexpectedly, or unplanned. But one thing you have control over is building wealth for the next generation. So let's remember this. GoFundMe is not a life insurance plan. It is very possible for you to get life insurance for less than it would cost to go to a concert, for less than it would cost to go to the Renaissance tour, for less than it would cost to buy a new pair of tennis shoes every month, for less than it will cost to be in some of these activities and some of the subscriptions. As a matter of fact, if you take some of your subscriptions that you are not using and you add that money up, then you could probably have well over 7 figures worth of life insurance, So GoFundMe is not the life insurance plan. And what we want to do is ensure that we've got enough life insurance during the years where we don't have a lot of income. And then during the years when we do have income, when we do hit that business jackpot, that financial jackpot, we're living in abundance, then we can decrease our life insurance over time. But right now, if you're trying to make it and someone is depending on you, and even for those who don't have children, do you care about anything? Do you have passion for anything? Is lung cancer important to you? Is breast cancer important to you? Is sickle cell anemia important to you? Have you lost a loved one to gun violence or some other social ill or some other tragedy? Do you know why other cultures, many more wealthy cultures, why they have wings and buildings of schools and community centers? It's because someone cared enough to have a life insurance policy with the proper plans. I'll tell you about that. And someone cared enough to leave that money with instructions. I'm going to tell you about that. So GoFundMe is not a life insurance plan. Let's also talk about this with life insurance. Be careful who you leave money to. If you are a single mom or single dad, you're a single parent, be careful that you do not leave the money to your child. If your children are minor children, then they won't get access to that money until they get to a majority age, until age 18. What if something happens to your child when they're 5 years old, 6 years old, or 7 years old? What are they going to do for those years while they're trying to wait on the money that they won't get until they're 18? And guess what? Chances are they will spend it all, like every single person I know who had to wait until they were 18 to get an unlimited, unwarranted, undisciplined inheritance. Every last one of those people spent the money before they could even count it. Okay? Now, you may be also thinking, well, I'll leave the money to my sister. She'll take care of my child. I'll leave the money to my mom. She'll take care of my child. I'll leave my money to someone. No. There are 2 reasons why you don't want to leave that money to an independent third party to do whatever they're going to do with. One, because they might not know what they're doing. If they're not a financial expert, then they're not going to know what they're doing. And number 2, they may abuse the money. So either one, they may not know what they're doing. 2, they may abuse the money and not use it for the purposes that you intended. Or 3, they may give it away to someone else who you did not intend it, or they may grieve too long and not really know how to make those decisions. So be careful who you leave money to. You want to make sure that if you have life insurance, that you also have an estate plan, and we'll talk about that later. Because your estate plan is basically your business plan after you pass on. It says person X gets an X amount of dollars when they graduate from high school, when they graduate from college, when they get married, when they start a business, when they finish their degree. You can put as many stipulations as you want to ensure that the money is used for the purpose that you intended. This is how estate planning and generational wealth is created. Now, let me tell you something about this. This is emotional because the person that I described to you earlier, me, I had to make these decisions when my children were very young. And at the first meeting, I cried. I mean, I got emotional about it. And then I started worrying what people would think. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter what they think. You won't be here. Okay? So it doesn't matter what they think. So I had to start thinking with my logic and with the wisdom that I have been given and not with my emotions. Remember, money is not emotional. We are. And so I had to stipulate who would take care of the children if something happened to my husband and I before they became adults. And that person would take care of them. Although we love them and trust them to take care of the kids, we did not trust them to take care of the money because they didn't know how to take care of money. They didn't know how to deal with that amount of money. So we appointed an executor over the estate, a financial expert, someone that I knew and trust, who had a fiduciary responsibility. That means they weren't going to just make decisions to make money. They had a license to protect. And we put someone over the children and their care. So these are the things you want to start to think about. And you want to remember, life insurance is not just about paying for funeral expenses. Life insurance is to cover living expenses. Are you taking care of an elderly parent, a loved one, a special needs child, any child, a niece, a nephew, someone that you would want to be taken care of if you weren't here? What about their monthly living expenses? You can have enough life insurance, and I'll show you a needs analysis of what that looks like. You can have enough life insurance to cover their monthly needs for the rest of their life and or until they pass on. Now, you might be thinking, if I only have $1 million in life insurance, how is that going to last forever? Well, I'll tell you that coming up shortly. You also want to cover college tuition. That may be in your, it may be a number that you factor into how much life insurance you need. What about long-term care? What happens if you break a leg? People think long-term care is just for the elderly, but what happens if you you become disabled? What happens if you can't work for 6 months or a year? So you want enough life insurance coverage to take care of that until the long-term care or the disability kicks in. What about that mortgage and other assets? There should be enough life insurance to pay off the mortgage. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. I did not put enough life insurance in place to cover my credit cards, because credit cards, if something happened to me, I'm gone. They can't collect on that. Okay. But that's up to you. I also did not include in my life insurance policy money to pay for depreciable assets. So if there was a car, I'm not paying for that car unless somebody's going to drive it that needs it. That car can go back to the dealer, and we don't need to pay for that because I'm not going to drive it. So you want to be sure that you are covering the things that matter and the things that make sense from a wisdom perspective. And then what about money for that next generation? What about your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren? And I'm going to tell you shortly how you're going to take the money that you have and allow that money to keep growing over time and to renew itself over time so that you will have what people call the trust forever. So this is life insurance. And this is the cornerstone. I don't care if you are, honestly, and I'm not trying to make anyone feel any kind of way. If you're homeless, you should have some life insurance. If you are just starting your job, you should have some life insurance. If you are on public assistance, you should have life insurance. If you are just at the beginning stage of your career, you should have life insurance. If you are going back to school and you don't have an income yet, you should still have some life insurance. Start somewhere, build something to get you to the next stage for generational wealth. The next thing that you want to do to protect your wealth, this is all about protecting your wealth. Now that you are building some wealth, you want to protect it. You need business insurance. Now, you're going to need business insurance, even if you just have a home-based business. If you're just selling hot dogs, what if somebody, gets sick and they decide to come sue you? You still want liability insurance for your sole proprietorship or liability insurance for your LLC or your S corp or your corporation, whatever it is, you want liability insurance. What you also want to protect your wealth, let's say you're in business with someone else. You started a business and you and that person, you are the money person and they are the entertainer. Let's take MC Light and myself, for example. We have multiple businesses together. What we also have is a life insurance policy, a business insurance policy called the buy-sell agreement. Because if something happens to her, I don't want to be in business with her heirs. I love her heirs, but I don't want to be in business with them. So the buy-sell agreement explains what happens in the event that one of us passes on. The life insurance will buy out the other party and give it to the surviving heirs so that you can continue on in that business. You may be in business with someone, and if something happens to them, then their share of your business will go to their children. Maybe you don't want to be in their business with their children. It's no harm intended, no disrespect, but that's not who you came into business with. So a buy-sell agreement will make sure that you can continue to run the company the way you see fit, and at the same time, buy out your ex-partner's interest in the event of that person's passing. The next thing that you want to take care of with your business insurance is you want key man insurance. In every company that I am in, they have key man insurance on me because I am a key person. If something happened to me, they'd have to hire 20 people to, I'm being honest. They'd have to hire about 20 people to do my one thing because of all the things. So would they have that money available? Would they be able to hire top talent? Would they be able to pay a headhunter or, do a relocation, give that person benefits? Maybe not. Because if in the event that I pass on, all of the income I was generating goes with me, then you want to make sure you have key man insurance to ensure that the company can continue on and retain top talent. This is very important. And these are policies. You don't have to have a 7-figure earning business to do this. You can do this now. You can start to do this now. The next thing that you want to ensure that you have a pension. Protect the money that you are making right now today. Now, you might be thinking, Lynn, I already have a 401k. That's not a pension. You might be thinking, Lynn, my job doesn't offer a pension. Well, guess what? Join the club. Most people do not work at a job that provides a pension, which means an income for them to have for the rest of their life. Okay? So if you want to ensure that you have a pension and income for life, you've either got to work for a company that provides one and then stay there long enough to get the pension. What if you don't stay there for 20 years or 30 years and then you keep starting over? What do you do? Well, it's important to have an income for life. Why? Because while you are working, you are getting a paycheck. Whether you are working on a job as an employee, whether you are working self-employed in your own business, whether you have established a business that you are now leveraging other people's talent on, or whether you've got investments, while you are working and making decisions and using your energy and your time, you get a paycheck. But see, one day when you stop working, you need a play check, Play, a play check. And an annuity is an income for life. An annuity is an insurance contract that you purchase. Let's say you purchase the insurance contract for $100,000, and then you may add $50 a month to it, $100 a month to it, $1,000 a month to it, or whatever you are adding to it. And then at a certain age, you will get an income for the rest of your life. If you are very wise, you will choose an annuity that will then roll over to your heirs when you pass on. And then that same annuity can roll over to their heirs when they pass on. And that's how you start to create generational wealth. Let me explain this to you. If you are able to accumulate, let's just say, for example, $1 million over the next 30 years or 20 years. And let me tell you, it's possible. You can do it. If you are able to accumulate $1 million and you retire off $1 million and you decide, you know what? All of my debts are paid. I'm living debt free. My house is paid for. So let's say, for example, you decide to live off of $50,000. That means your annuity is earning $950,000 while you spend $50,000, and that $950,000, if it was $1 million, is still earning income. It's still earning interest. It's still making money for you. And so it keeps doing that. So the next year, maybe there's $1,050,000. The next year, maybe there's $1,100,000. The next year, there's $1,200,000. So there's a way to keep the money growing while you just live off a portion of the interest. Let the interest keep accumulating and growing, and you just live off of a portion of the interest. That's how you have these big families like the Kennedys and the Rockefellers and so on, and the Hiltons. Now you need to make it you. The Richardsons, the Johnsons, the Thompsons, the Rosses. You need to make it you. Put your name there. This is not about who's who. This is not about whether you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Every last one of those big name families started out somewhere. I think the Hilton story is that they started out investing with $100, and please don't hold me to that, but I know it was some small number that you can achieve as well. Now, remember this. On the screen, you see a pension. If you don't have a pension, you can start your own pension. That's an income for life. A 401k is not a pension. A 401k is an advanced bank account. It could disappear. Now, I'm not saying don't have a 401k, but I'm saying when your 401k hits a certain number, see how much of that money you can roll over into a pension and turn a portion of it into an income for life. Unfortunately, during the recession of 2008, and for some even during the pandemic, their pensions were at $5 million, but when the stock market dropped, that pension was down to pennies on the dollar. For some people, they had time to recover. But what about those people who needed to retire in less than a year or 2 years? They lost everything. They had to start all over. So you want to make sure that all of your retirement, your generational wealth retirement funding, you want to make sure all of it is not simply allocated to a 401k. You want to have other assets, and one of those assets that I highly recommend is an annuity. And anybody can start an annuity, okay? You can start one with your life insurance company. The next thing that I want to talk to you about, and I want to talk to you about long-term care. Now, I want you to understand this. We have a tradition in communities of color of taking care of our elderly when they are too old to take care of themselves. And I'm telling you, while that may be a heart strategy, while that may be a loving strategy, while that may be a loyal strategy, that is not a wellness strategy. That is not a wealthy strategy. And that is not a wise strategy. Let me say it again. It is not a wellness strategy, because most people who take care of an elderly person, and sometimes that's for 20 years or 30 years, you never know how long that may happen. Many of them do not live as long as the elderly person. Many of them have to stop working their jobs, and then they are obligated. And although they love the person, they are now obligated, and they are extended beyond their capacity. So it does not promote wellness. It also does not promote wealth, because the resources get eaten up, and or the person can no longer work. And it is not wisdom, because the truth is, and I can say this for myself, I love my 3 daughters. I don't want my 3 daughters to be burdened with taking care of me. If something happens to me where I'm not able to take care of myself, and I still live another 25 years, I don't want them spending their 40s and 50s and 60s worried about me, burdened about me. And you all know how much I love Grandma B. Grandma B is my everything. She was my everything. Rest in peace. But when she was too old to take care of herself, I hired someone to take care of her. Now, everybody can't do that. And that's why I'm suggesting that you get long-term care and start to put the money away now so that that long-term care policy will kick in when the person loses 2 activities of daily living. So they don't have to be completely incapacitated. Maybe they can't dress themselves or they can't remember to take their medication. That's 2 things. Maybe they can't cook for themselves or they can't transition. Maybe they can't get up or sit down alone. That's 2 things. Any 2 things that they are afflicted with can put them in a position where their long-term care policy can kick in. Now, if you're getting that $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever the amount is per month, that money can now be used for additional home health care. That money can be used for additional in-home nursing assistance and things like that. Money can be used for private duty nursing. And those are the things that I did. And although it was much better for me to be on the road, because I'm going to be honest with you. Grandma B didn't want me sitting there looking at her every day because I'd have been just as miserable as she was. I'd have been crying. I'm no good. I don't do that well. And that's something that everyone needs to be honest with themselves about. And you don't need a guilt trip. Everybody doesn't know how to provide long-term, every single day care for someone who can't care for themselves. But the person who was taking care of Grandma B for me, first of all, she loved doing it. She loved Grandma B, and Grandma B loved her. So it was a win-win situation. Now remember, long-term care is not just for you or your parents or grandparents or someone that you care about when they become elderly. It's for care at any age. I know people who are 50 years old who need long-term care because of a disability. I know people who are in their 40s who need long-term care because of some kind of illness or disability or long-term health situation. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you this because I want you to be prepared. Long-term care can be expensive and long-term care can be costly because long-term care is contingent upon the wages and the cost of living in your particular region, city, or state. So long-term care in California may be more expensive than long-term care in Alabama. So one of the things I'm going to recommend is that you look at getting a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. I want you to see that on the screen. That's very important because here's what happens with a life insurance policy. The life insurance policy says when you pass on, maybe you have $1 million in life insurance and you pass on, but what happens if you don't pass on, but you get sick? If you get sick and lose 2 activities of daily living, then they will pay out your life insurance policy in monthly installments while you are alive so that your quality of living can be better while you are either alive for the time you have left or while you're trying to stay alive. Long-term care is essential. So all of these things are important for protecting your wealth. And there's nothing that I've said here that you can't start today with the money that you have today, if you are willing to make the sacrifices and make the choices. I said something to a colleague. I said, she said, you know what? This is a lot. I said, let me tell you something. Bondage costs, and so does freedom. Freedom is going to cost you. You got to pay for both. You have to decide which one is worth the cost. Are you going to pay for bondage or are you going to pay for freedom? I'm going to pay for freedom. I'm going to pay for financial freedom. I'm going to pay for financial health and wellness. I'm going to pay for that. And I'm going to make the sacrifices to do that. Lastly, you want to get an estate plan. An estate plan is important. And an estate plan is your business plan for the for what takes place after you pass on. First of all, you need to put your life insurance and your primary residence into a trust. Why? Because a will is not enough. Someone can contest a will, and in contesting the will, the probate expenses, the cost of determining who gets what, can eat up the whole entire estate. So let's say there's $1 million left in the life insurance and or in the home, in the real estate or whatever it is that you're leaving. And by the time everybody gets through fighting over it, they've spent $900,000. It happens all the time. Our beloved Chadwick Boseman died without an estate plan. He had life insurance. He had no will, no estate plan. So according to what happened with his assets, his wife, who was not arguing, got, I believe, 1.3 million. His parents, they were not arguing either. They got 1.3 million. But the bankruptcy of the estate planning court, the probate court, got 1.6 million. Once they worked through all the papers and filed all the fees, so you must get an estate plan. And you're going to eventually meet someone else along this journey, because I know that we're not just going to stop with this 15-week class session. Somehow, some way, I believe that we're going to be able to continue. And so I'll be able to go into these topics in great detail. But before I close out for Q&A and give you your homework, I have to tell you a story about a mother and a daughter. And the mother and the daughter were highly intelligent. The mother had a PhD. The daughter had a master's degree and was working on her PhD. And they were not married, and they did not have any other children. So the daughter was her mother's only child, and the daughter had no children, nor was she married. And so when asked about their estate plan, it was very simple. They were very close, had a beautiful relationship. So the mother was the daughter's beneficiary on her life insurance, her pension, and all of her assets, and vice versa. They were each other's pension. They were each other's beneficiary. Unfortunately, they got into a car accident. And in the car accident, it was a fatal car accident. And so they both made it to the hospital. And technically, the mother passed first. So the mother passed first. They were working on the daughter, but technically the mother passed first. So when they looked at the time of death, the mother passed first. So because the mother passed, all of her assets then went to the daughter. Essentially, they immediately passed to the daughter. They were working on the daughter, and then the daughter did not make it either. And the daughter no longer had a beneficiary because the mother had passed on. So now the daughter who just passed, she had her mother's assets, all of them, and hers. And her father, who had never been in her life, inherited everything. Everything. Her aunts, her mother's sisters and brothers, her goddaughters, godchildren, all these people that she had a relationship with, none of them got anything. So that's a tragic, true story. Remember, people do not pass in chronological order. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But when I was on food stamps, when I had filed bankruptcy, when the economy crashed, I knew one thing for sure. And this is the thing that kept me going every day. One, I knew who my Lord and Savior was. And two, I knew that I had life insurance. That's all I could bet on. I knew that I had life insurance, and I knew I had an estate plan to take care of my loved ones in the event that I could not, in the event that I did not make it. So yes, it is time for us to protect what wealth we have. Some of you think you have nothing. Yes, you do have something. You've got a life insurance policy, and the life insurance policy at your job is not enough. Because if you don't keep that job forever, then you're going to be older, and you may need to get new life insurance, but you're going to be older and you may not be in the same health. So your life insurance is going to be more expensive. So you need an outside life insurance policy in addition to life insurance on your job. Yes, you're going to need that business insurance and that key man insurance. Get a small policy now. Get liability insurance. I think for a self-employed person just doing regular consulting work, I think you can get liability insurance for $500 a year. That's less than $50 a month. Okay. And key man insurance, just in case something happens. If you've got somebody on your team who makes all the money, who does all the marketing, who comes up with the great ideas, you all are in partnership. You do this over here and they do that over there. You need to ensure that something is in place to protect the business if one of you doesn't make it. Remember, a pension is an income for life. Start to build your own pension now. It is essential. It is important that you start to protect your wealth later, right now. Long-term care. If you cannot get a long-term care insurance policy because they are somewhat tedious, then ensure that you get a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. A long-term care rider, RIDER. And then finally, as you protect your wealth, ensure that you have an estate plan. Ensure that you have an estate plan. And so what I'm going to do this week is I've got something very, very crucial and critical for you, because this is very important. And you're going to need a legacy and wealth building needs analysis. And it's a document that you can complete on your own. And it's a document that you can start to fill out so you can see where your gaps are. And you can ask for that document at asklynn.org. But the document is also going to be available at www.deltafoundation.net. It's a legacy wealth building needs analysis. Okay. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a moment. You can also visit the website for more information at www.deltafoundation.net. And I was asked to show this link during the presentation. So I'm pretty sure that that link is going to be available to you wherever you are watching this. Okay. So this link is pretty long. You won't remember this, but I'm going to show you what it looks like. And then, of course, for more ongoing information for free, you can go to lynnrichardson.org, get in our free group, and we're always posting updates and things there. Okay. But when you go to asklynn.org, I want you to specifically, so that my team will know who you are, ask for the legacy and wealth building needs analysis. Okay. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Let me just see here. Let me see if I can show you my screen. And I believe I've got it here. Well, here's the link that the deltafoundation.net link, where all of the information, and that link has been made available to you. And you'll see all of these items here. Okay. You'll see lots and lots of tools here. And then I want to show you what the needs analysis looks like. So you should also see this on the screen, this needs analysis. And it's going to give you a little calculator where you can add out and put in your income, and you can put in certain things. If you've got one child, children, if you got one child or two children or three children, you can plug things in to see how much insurance you need for yourself in addition to some of your other wealth building needs. Okay. So I definitely wanted to share this with you, and I wanted you to see all of it here. And I want you to see what the homework assignment is. Again, it's to go to ask for a legacy wealth building needs analysis at asklynn.org. Also visit the website for this entire series at www.deltafoundation.net. And for more free information, make sure you join our group at lynnrichardson.org. Okay, so my time is up, and you can see what's coming up on the screen. And I'm going to turn it over to our organizers so we can continue on with Q&A.
Good evening, everyone. This is truly rich information. And I think that Tiffany S. said it best when she said that she has been getting a wealth of information from these sessions. I think we can all agree to that. I am Antoinette Rogers, Director of Programs for the Delta Research and Educational Foundation. And I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. We are at the halfway mark. We are 5 weeks in and we have 5 weeks remaining. I'm glad to see that this week we have some individuals, but we also have businesses represented. We have the Veterans and Community Outreach. We have A+ Care, Mobile Therapy and Home Health. We have the Richmond Heritage Federal Credit Union. And if there are other businesses represented, we ask you to shout out your business in the chat. As always, we ask you to email if you have additional questions or feedback, and the email address is fhwp@deltafoundation.net. fhwp@deltafoundation.net. You know, we have really started something with these giveaways, and this week it is no different. We have some wonderful giveaways, and we have several winners. We have selected several winners based on your responses to our homework assignments and logging in. And the first prize I would like to award is for our early bird, Deborah H. Deborah H., you were the first person on, and you will receive a $50 e-gift card. Congratulations, Deborah H. Please make sure you email us at the email address I have provided and that appears in the chat so that you can send your mailing address and we can get your prize to you. Our next prize is for our first international check-in for the evening. We have gone international, you all. We're not just limited to the contiguous U.S. And Sheila M. from Kingston, Jamaica, you are our international check-in winner today. Sheila M. from Kingston, Jamaica. Please send us an email with your mailing information so that we can send your prize to you. And our prize winners this week will receive a book that is very timely as we talk about life insurance. This week's book recommendation is Money, Wealth, Life Insurance: How the Wealthy Use Life Insurance as a Tax-Free Personal Bank to Supercharge Their Savings. And this book is written by Jake Thompson. It's a #1 bestseller. And this book was donated by the Greens, who are a husband and wife team from the World Financial Group. But the book is Money, Wealth, Life Insurance. How timely. Also receiving a book tonight is Angela from Harrisburg, North Carolina. Angela was the first check-in with her city and state tonight. She was the first person to respond with the check-in. Congratulations, Angela. And our next winner for tonight is Renee. Renee from Longview, Texas. And she responded that she had completed her 10-10-30-50 budget plan And when asked how she had changed any allocations, she said she made an adjustment and reallocated her tithe. So congratulations, Angela. I'm sorry, Renee. Next we have Aisha W., who responded to the question if she had established or determined a second stream of income. And Aisha responded that she is an educational consultant, and that will be her second income stream. Along with Aisha, congratulations, Aisha, we have Katrina R., who responded that her second stream of income is as a healthcare consultant. Congratulations. And our last prize for the evening is another $50 e-gift card. And this one is awarded to a participant who said that participating in this program has changed her mindset to be thoughtful and almost frugal, but she realizes it's important. And that winner is Lillian W. So congratulations to our 7 winners this week. Please email us at the address provided to give us your contact information, and that is your mailing address as well, because we will be sending some things, and we need to have addresses for you. As always, we encourage you to visit the DREF website at www.deltafoundation.net. When you get to the homepage, if you scroll down to the very bottom, you will see 4 portals. The portal on the far right is the Financial Health and Wellness Program portal. It says Financial Education. If you click on that portal, you will be taken to the videos from past weeks as well as accompanying documents. You'll be able to see all of those videos there and get documents and homework assignments and so forth. We also encourage you to follow us on DREF social media. That information was displayed at the beginning of the program, and we will display it again. And just to give you a heads up, we have 5 more weeks, and next week we will talk about owning where you live. On October 26th, maximize your credit health. On November 2nd, we'll talk about adopting a giving mindset. And while we're speaking of giving, if you are enjoying this program, we encourage you to consider giving or donating to the Delta Research and Educational Foundation so that we can continue work such as this. You can find out more about giving your tax-deductible donation at www.deltafoundation.net. And on the last 2 sessions of the series, we will have questions, answers, and strategies. You know, an hour and a half passes so quickly, we can't get to all of the questions. So for our last 2 weeks, we will have very specific questions and answers so that we can all leave this series and go on our way to achieving financial health and wellness as we climb Dr. Lynn's stair steps to wealth. Thank you for joining us this week. Dr. Lynn, back to you.
So happy to be back. So I know we have so many questions about life insurance and pensions and 401ks and all of those other great things, and long-term care, and making the next steps and making the right decisions. So before we do that, however, I am going to share with you one of the screens that I know we've already been asked to share, and we have been asked to share the review screen. So we will do that. And I just want to make sure This screen is on so everybody can see it. So please, if my team could text me to let me know if the screen is showing, that would be great. Okay, so great. The screen is showing. So the very first question someone said, can you go over the 5 steps to protecting your wealth? 1 is life insurance. 2 is business insurance and key man insurance. And this is for everybody because why? Everybody needs a home-based business. So I'm putting it in there. 3, a pension, which is an income for life. Okay, so that is to help you when you can no longer earn income from physically going to work yourself. Number 4, a long-term care, making sure that you have that for yourself. And listen, I had to make sure I put long-term care in place for my mother, my father, my mother-in-law. I had to make sure I put these things in place because if something happened to them, guess what? I still wanted to make sure that the burden did not fall 100% on me to try to finance their needs in those days where they may have some challenges. And then, of course, an estate plan. So these are the 5 pieces of your protection plan. And this is not something that you do one time. You want to take a look at this once a year. You have to put oil in your car regularly. You have to change the filters in your air conditioning regularly. You have to go to sleep every night, right? And renew. And so you always want to be in the business of renewing and reviewing all of your wealth assets. So that is great. And then I'll put the homework assignment up just again, and we can go back to that if necessary. And it's time for Q questions and answers.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Lynn, awesome information. We have a first question. It is, if you do not have children and you are single, what kind of insurance should a person get? Whole or term? That's what the question is.
So whole life insurance or term life insurance is going to depend on what your income is, how much you can afford, and what your needs are. So in the event that something happens to you, even if you are single with no children, what do you want to happen to anything that you own? That's one question. The second question is, what do you want to fund in the event of your passing? Some people choose to start a foundation so that they can help homeless children. Others may choose to fund an existing organization like their church, their sorority, their fraternity, a club that they were in college, uh, the Minority Business Accountant Association. I mean, there are so many things. What do you care about? And the real question that I asked, because during the pandemic, I had the privilege of working with a few people who had already retired and were already financially free. And they were young, relatively young, late 40s, early 50s. And they said, so what am I doing all this for? And I said, that's between you and your creator. That's between you and God. Why are you here? Did he bring you this far to just leave and do nothing? Did he bring you this far to help nobody but yourself? Now, that question is not a question that has a correct answer or an incorrect answer. It's the question that you ask yourself when you go to sleep at night. And every time I ask someone that question, somewhere, somehow, they find something that they're passionate about or they collide into their purpose. And so, wellness, I look at it from a community perspective. I'm not well if everybody around me isn't well. I'm not wealthy if the people who are around me aren't wealthy. And so I think if we really start to look at this from a each one teach one and help each other perspective, then life itself begins to be different. So if you want to fund a large sum and you can't afford it, then you get term life insurance. If you don't need to fund as much as and you can afford it, then you may want to get whole life. Whole life is more expensive. and it's permanent. Term life is temporary and it's less expensive. But you can often get a term life policy and keep that same premium for 15, 20, or even 30 years. So some people may decide, I'm going to get a term policy for the next 5 or 10 years. And while I'm building my business, because I want to leave $5 million to my alma mater, I want to leave money to my HBCU. I don't want kids to have to struggle like I did. I mean, there is no limit to what you can do when you start to build wealth. And I firmly believe that everything that we need to build wealth, we already have it. We have the ability to make decisions that will allow us to create generational wealth for others. And if we start to do this now, then we will not be looking at people of color still being at the bottom of the wealth, at the bottom of the wealth ladder 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and 100 years from now. Because to date, nothing has changed. Since from Reconstruction to the Civil Rights Movement to people, the millennials, nothing has changed. We've got more education, and in many cases, more access to opportunity. But overall, our wealth has not gone up the scale. And so it's time for us to use our power now to do that. That was an excellent question. What's the next question?
My relative is 90, and the insurance company sent him the money saying they can no longer carry him. Doesn't age impact ability to get life insurance?
Yes, age does impact the ability to get life insurance, but don't let that stop you. So there are companies out there who will insure people at any age. There are companies out there who will insure people in any health situation. Is it the ideal insurance? Well, ideal is relative to what your needs are. Do you need life insurance for burial expenses or for some other expense? So once you're able to take a look at your situation, you can determine what's next. But I never like to leave this question with extreme circumstances. Most people are not 90. Most people are not in a situation where they cannot get life insurance. Most of the people on this listening to this are actually at least at an age or maybe in a position to manage their health to get life insurance. And if you find that you are having difficulty, definitely mention that when you go to asklyn.org for your legacy wealth building needs analysis. I have an entire team of people across the country who can help you. Excellent question.
Okay. What is the difference between 401k and IRA, and which is better?
An IRA is an individual retirement account, and it's simply a methodology by which the IRS taxes. The IRA has a maximum amount contributing of $6,500. There is no, and the maximum amount to a 401k is much higher than that. They're both, I would say, glorified savings accounts. They are both contingent upon what's happening in the stock market. They both require you to either choose funds, and they are both accounts that could disappear. Okay. So an IRA and a 401k are not incomes for life, but they are certainly methodologies for you to start to build and save at a higher rate as you determine what you want to transfer out of your IRA and 401k and into your pension.
Outstanding question. Is it possible to roll over an IRA into an annuity?
Yes, it is possible depending on the paperwork that your IRA stipulates. So you'd want to read your paperwork, you'd want to sit with a financial professional, and then they will help you determine whether or not you can roll that over into an annuity. But I know many, many, many people who have rolled over their old pensions, they've rolled over their old 401ks or their existing IRAs into annuities. And an annuity can be an IRA annuity or a non-IRA annuity. So you want to remember that as well. So yes, that is possible. And that's an excellent, excellent question.
What is the best way to spend after investing?
So I'm going to go back to the 10, 10, 30, 50. And the first 10% you tithe, I'm going to go back to that page. The next 10% you save. The next 30% is cash in your pocket or on a separate debit card. The remaining 50% stays in your checking account for your bills. If you don't have enough money, subtract non-essential expenses. If you have more than enough money, now you want to get rid of debt, because money will work harder for you than you can ever work for it. And so you want to start to put money into different places. What does that mean? There is no one size fits all. So unfortunately, this is not a question that I can answer with absolute certainty. Your financial wellness prescription is just like any other prescription. It is contingent upon your individual circumstances. It is contingent upon your individual symptoms, and it is contingent upon your individual needs. So one person with the exact same income could have different needs than the next person. So it's not even contingent upon your income. So I tell people all the time, there are lots of people who will tell you anything to get you to buy whatever they're selling. I don't have anything like that. I'm just not going to do it. So in order to get exact answers, you're going to have to provide exact information. You can't call the doctor and ask them if you have a cough or bronchitis or COVID. You actually, or if you just have a cold, bronchitis, or COVID, you actually have to take a test. You actually have to go through things. They actually have to take your vitals. And so a good financial coach, a good financial professional also has to have you submit some information so we can take your vitals and give you the proper prescription for your particular scenario.
When it comes to buy-sell agreement in a business, if the business partner does not have any dependents, spouse, or living relatives, does the business revert to you fully automatically, or is there something you have to put in writing in an agreement?
Anyone who passes on without heirs, if you do not pass with an estate, then the state has an estate for you. So especially if that business has value, your business could be tied up for years, for months, years, or even decades. So if the person has no heirs, that means nothing, because you don't know the heirs that you don't know about. So people fail in life because they don't know what they don't know, and they think they know. You never know who may pop out of the woodwork, out of nowhere, and they don't even have to be telling the truth. Okay. So you don't ever want to be in a situation where you have to deal with the state or the court to help you make decisions that you can make by simply making a choice.
Excellent. The question is prefaced with this. Remember, you pay taxes on your annuity when you withdraw any money, and it depends on the tax level or market current status. Please speak on taxes and what is deductible.
So the IRS, the reason why people have to get a tax education for yourself, because you can go find it all out at irs.gov, but it's over 70,000 pages long. It's impossible to share tax deductions in this session. What I can tell you is that the resources that we've already provided and given access to, that's a place to start. But if you've got specific tax questions, because once again, everybody's situation is different. Some annuities are IRAs, meaning they are not taxed when you start to draw down the money. Others are non-IRAs where you do get taxed. So every situation is different, and you want to sit with a tax professional, and or you want to start to get that tax education for yourself. I say do both. I say get a tax education so you can make wise decisions, but then also get a tax professional so that they can make sure they file those tax returns. So let me give you me, for example. I have a very, very broad tax education, but I do not file my own taxes. I don't want to be I want to learn how to do taxes. Okay. So I depend on someone to do that. But then I know that I have to keep my receipts. I know that I should have X amount of my 401k or X amount of my IRA. I get the knowledge for myself. I reconfirm it with a professional so that I'm able to live my life in such a way that I get deductions. So that's what you want to do. You want to learn how to live your life in a way to minimize your taxes and maximize your deductions. You want to maximize your deductions and minimize your taxes. And then you want to get a tax professional to help you file the same.
As a hairstylist, any recommendations for insurance in case of an injury, etc.?
Absolutely. Life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care, a pension, and an estate plan. Absolutely. That would be the same for any particular person. Life insurance, and then business insurance for liabilities, malpractice. Then also for your pension, you want to take a look at that. Long-term care, and I'm going to add in disability. I'm going to add in disability and make sure you have an estate plan. All of that is to protect your entire wealth portfolio that you're building, whether you are a hairstylist, or whether you sell makeup, whether you sell, do pharmaceutical sales, whether you're an executive.
Excellent. I love that you added disability in there.
Mm-hmm.
Question: which life insurance is better, whole life or termed?
I don't have an answer for which is better. Which is better for you is dependent upon your situation. It was much better for me when I was first building wealth and didn't have a lot of money. I needed to have a lot of life insurance. So I was able to buy a large sum to cover my family for a small amount. Over time, then I may convert some of that to whole life for longer, more permanent insurance. So again, you want to look at your budget, what you can afford, and you also want to take a look at what you need to cover at this particular time. So again, that's going to be an individual decision, and that's going to be a decision that's contingent upon your specific needs and what you're trying to cover.
What if a husband left everything to his wife in a will? Does she need to have the will probated?
So there's not going to be, you're not going to get a will probated. The will, if a husband leaves everything to his wife in a will, it is insufficient. So I want everybody to stop scratching your head on this. I want everybody to stop overthinking this. A will is not enough. A will can be contested. Yes, a will go through probate. A trust is what you need in order to protect the interests of your loved one. If you want to do more than just estimate whether they'll get everything, estimate if someone's going to come contest it, estimate those things. If you want to ensure protection, you need an estate plan along with a trust. And your primary residence should go into that trust. There are so many people who have left a house to someone and then someone contests that. So here's the deal. The person who contests the will doesn't have to be telling the truth. They could not tell the truth. They could just say it. And guess what? You have to spend the money to defend it. And unfortunately, if that spouse or that loved one or whoever it is doesn't have enough income to pay legal fees, and legal fees add up quickly, and probate court can get expensive, then you want to get an estate plan and a trust.
This question is right on time. So who do we talk to get these things set up, the trust?
So if you want to have a trust set up, you're going to need to talk to multiple people. One, I'm going to highly recommend that you speak to an estate planning attorney. And one of my books, Estate Planning Made Easy, is also an option that can help you work through the steps that you need. Okay. So you're going to want to work with an estate planning attorney. And I co-wrote that book with attorney Deidre Wood Stokes, who's a very well-known national estate planning attorney. 2, you're going to work with a financial advisor, someone who can advise you on the different uh, items that you have in your estate plan. So if you've got a 401k, if you have a solo 401k, if you've got life insurance, all of those things that you need to go in that plan are important as well. And so essentially, you could do it with those 2 people. But if you need help budgeting, if you need help understanding your real estate options, you may have to sit with a real estate broker to understand your real estate needs. Do you sell your property upon the execution of your estate plan, or do you keep it in the family? Those kinds of things are things you're going to want to talk about. So in order to have financial wellness, you're going to have to look at it like your regular wellness. It's great to have a primary care physician, but you also need an eye doctor. You also need a doctor to deal with other specialty areas. You may need a doctor for certain internal exams that you may need. And so it's the same thing with your finances. You may need an estate planning attorney. You may need a life insurance agent. You may need a financial advisor. You may need a mortgage professional to help you choose the right mortgage. You may need a real estate agent to help you choose the right real estate. So there are other things that you may need, and an overall financial coach. So that's an excellent question. And that's why it takes teamwork to make the dream work. And one of my favorite sayings is plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And so when you get the right people on your team to help you make the right choices after you get an education, see, this can't be about you got to find someone who knows what they're doing. You've got to know what you're doing. So if you find somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, you know it. All right. And so the goal is to teach you as much as possible for you to literally get a financial education. How much education did it take to get that master's degree, to get that bachelor's degree, that business degree? It was a curriculum, but that's exactly what this is. And this is like the first semester. It's just the intro of everything. But then you've got to go back through the curriculum, and then you've got to go back through each one of these stair steps. For each stair step, I probably got 6 months worth of classes just for each stair step. So there are additional things that you want to put in place, and also additional people that you want to put in place. That's an excellent question. Thank you for asking it.
This is from the Veterans and Community Outreach Foundation. Any recommendations for business insurance companies?
So I don't name companies here in this particular session. This is a nonprofit endeavor, and I want to be very, very respectful to our organizers, and I also want to be very respectful to our sponsor, Toyota. So I don't give out names of companies, but you can start with a Google search. And you can certainly, of course, go to lynnrichardson.org to ask questions, and you can possibly get some recommendations from members of the community.
This question is from a Plus Care Mobile Therapy and Home Health. The question is, do I need a tax ID to be eligible for a solo or individual 401k? That's part one. Did you want to answer that, and then I'll give you the second part?
So if you're getting a solo 401k, you want to follow all of the steps that your plan administrator provides. Okay. So if you've got a solo 401k and you are a sole proprietor operating as a sole proprietor, then you may be able to proceed in that fashion. If you have an LLC or a single member LLC, and you've got an EIN, then you may proceed in that fashion. So you want to be sure that you follow the steps of your plan administrator for your solo 401k. And yes, go on with the second part of that question.
Or is a sole proprietorship paid to my Social Security number enough?
So I don't understand that question. That seems like it's a little more technical. Mm-hmm. And because I don't have a specific answer, I'm not looking at anything. When you say is Social Security, if it paid to your Social Security enough, I don't understand that question. So I'd highly recommend that you either go to asklynn.org, submit that question, and or Google solo 401k plan provider and make an inquiry there, and or go to deltafoundation.net and or to lynn.org for more information there. But this is a very technical question. And so I don't like to provide technical answers that require an individual diagnosis in a general session, because I don't want to lead anybody astray.
Okay, so we pulled the next one is the question about the 5 points, which are now on the screen. So we've answered that question. So the next question is it better to put money in a regular savings account or a long-term investment?
Once again, it all depends on where you are. So remember, we talked about and make your money grow. And if you did not listen to that session, please, please, please go back and take a look at that. It all depends on which money we're talking about. So your immediate emergency funds need to be quickly available in a savings account that you can get access to, or a high yield savings account. But your longer term money, your pension, your 401k, can be money that's a little bit further out of reach. The answer to that question is different for everyone. So if you don't have 6 to 9 months of emergency funds saved right now, then I'm going to say that the great majority of your savings should go there. And then when you've got 6 to 9 months of an emergency fund that's easily accessible, then you can start to have more allocated towards your long-term investing.
Love it, because then the next part of her question is, how much should one keep in a monthly checking account?
Yeah, again, that's up to you. It depends on your living expenses. How much you keep in your monthly checking account is contingent upon your living expenses. And then how much you put in your savings account or your high yield savings, you should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses immediately available to you. All right. And then from there, you can start to look at what to do with the rest to make strategic decisions.
You have completed the Q&A session.
Okay, this has been excellent. I love, love, love these questions. And I know that we have covered quite a bit. We have covered so much. And so in my remaining just few minutes, I'm going to go on and just go over what we're going to cover next. And own where you live. We're going to talk about buying real estate with zero money down. We're going to talk about buying real estate with different kinds of down payment assistance programs. We're going to talk about the rent versus buy comparison and analysis. We're going to talk about how to own a home, buy a home with no mortgage payment for 6 months and rehab it. We're going to talk about reverse mortgages and the benefits of that and some of the things to watch out for. So we've got lots and lots of strategies for own where you live, whether you already own real estate or whether you are looking to own real estate in the future. So I'm looking so forward to that. And then I will turn it back over.
So there's a couple more questions that they just put in the chat. Did you want to take one or two?
Excellent.
We got about 6.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes, we still have some more time.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. So if you have a house set up to be paid off in the event of your passing, will you need a trust to ensure that the individuals that are listed in the last will and testament receive it?
You need a trust for everything. You need a trust for everything. For any assets that you have, whether it be life insurance, a home, you want to bequeath over to someone. If you want to minimize problems, you want to make sure you have a trust. If you don't care about those problems and everybody just got to figure it out on their own, then either do nothing or have a will that can be contested. But you need a trust for everything that is of value to you that you want to ensure gets over to the people you love.
Is a settlement from an accident taxed?
That's a question that you'll need to speak to an attorney and a tax professional about.
What about inheritance money or other assets?
Once again, so those are very, very broad questions. Those are very, very broad questions. So there are exceptions, but you want to know what your limitations are depending on your situation. And you want to talk to an estate planning attorney and a tax professional for specific answers. I cannot give answers to questions like that because they require an individual diagnosis.
And what is the best place to get a tax education?
Go to asklyn.org. There's get your money back tax deductions you've never known about. There's a book, there's classes, there's all kinds of things that you can go there to enhance the education that you've already gotten.
Is it wise to deed property before we die, or will or trust?
So what you're going to do, if you have any questions about deeding property, if you have any questions about making sure the property gets to the person that you want to get it to, you're going to speak to an estate planning attorney, and you're going to go through those individual questions. And here's one of the reasons why. Rules are different in certain states. Certain states may be community property versus non-community property. Whose name is on the deed? There's so many different things. How you are owning the property as solely or joint with rights of survivorship, or joint in the tenancy. I wish I had 3 months to sit here and share every single thing I know about this particular topic, but unfortunately I don't. And so unfortunately, many of the questions that may come up, and I love having them, are going to be answered once you dig a little deeper into your own individual situation and or take additional classes.
Can you address biological heirs versus non-direct heirs, but from marriage?
I'm not sure what the question is. I need to know what the question is. Biological heirs versus non-biological heirs. I don't understand the question. So maybe that person could add a little, provide a little more context to that question. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. Those are broad statements.
So Sora Melody Harris says, I love your glasses, Sora Lynn. Can you share where you got them?
Yes, I got them on Amazon. I have them in all colors. I love them too. Thank you. I'll put them in the lynnrichardson.org group.
Yes. What is the name of the book again?
Get Your Money Back, tax deductions you never knew about. I think I've written 8 or 9 books. And so once again, I like to keep this session about the information and the education. I want to honor our organizers, our hosts, our sponsors. And so I don't want to give a whole history of all my books because it's a lot. And I've probably got hundreds of classes. But if you go to asklyn.org or go to and ask any questions there, I'm more than happy to provide any additional questions. But yes, Get Your Money Back, tax deductions you never knew about, and estate planning made simple is a great estate planning guide that you may want to pick up.
Okay, one last question, I think. Can you address again family caregivers who take care of a relative who doesn't have an income or an insurance or nor government assistance?
So what you want to do is go on and ask for that legacy wealth building needs analysis. I don't think I have enough time to address that question intelligently or even in depth, but what I will say is if you are dealing with a family member who has no income, no health care, no resources, then you definitely want to understand what your next steps are and what you can do. And so it really would take a questionnaire and some communication to determine what your next steps are. But there is hope for you. And we are at the end of our time, so I want to make sure we respect the time.
All right. another wonderful week. Thank you for another wonderful week of rich information. We appreciate it all. I have been getting texts and phone calls and looking at the chat. And this is a lot of information. And I get the feeling that we have people who have additional questions. And I want to remind our participants that our last 2 weeks will be strategy sessions. We will have an opportunity to ask additional questions, have them answered, and then strategize on what we will take away from this session as this series of webinars ends. We have, the good news is we have 5 more weeks. And so you can write your questions down. You can email Dr. Lynn at her email address. You can visit her website, and you can also contact us at DREF if you have any additional questions. Thank you all so much for joining us again. Have a great evening. Good night.